This is quite an unfamiliar thing for you. I don't think you've ever lost 4 games as a manager in a row. I mean, how strange is it for you, this feeling? You've never had it before.
Welcome. Always happen one time in a lifetime, right?
In today's video, we'll take a look into how Pep Guardiola's Manchester City are on a terrible run, and how this might push them out of the title race earlier than normal.
Maybe after 7 years winning 6 Premier Leagues, maybe 1 year, another team deserves it, but...
Pep Guardiola is widely regarded as one of the greatest managers in football history, known for his tactical innovation and the success he's achieved across Europe. Born in Sant Pedor, Spain, Guardiola's career began as a player for Barcelona, where he rose through the ranks of their famed La Masia Academy. As a midfielder, he became an influential part of Johan Cruyff's dream team, winning numerous titles and learning the core principles of possession-based football and the importance of spatial control. Guardiola's transition to management began in 2008, when he took over Barcelona's first team after a successful stint with their B team. At Barcelona, he revolutionized football with his tiki-taka style, a highly technical, possession-focused game that emphasized quick, short passing, and constant player movement. Under his guidance, Barcelona achieved one of the most dominant spells in modern football, winning multiple La Liga titles, 2 UEFA Champions League titles, and the historic treble in 2009. Following his time at Barcelona, Guardiola continued his managerial journey with Bayern Munich and Manchester City, adapting his philosophy to new environments and achieving considerable success. At Bayern, he emphasized tactical flexibility, helping the team dominate German football, though a Champions League title eluded him. At Manchester City, Guardiola has transformed the club into one of the strongest in the Premier League, winning multiple league titles with a style that balances possession and aggressive pressing. But that tactical intelligence of his seems to be failing him, with his City side suffering 4 consecutive defeats. This is the first time Pep would suffer this terrible run of form. In fact, this run is so terrible that Pep's speech seems to suggest that he's given up on the title race. According to him, maybe after 7 years winning 6 Premier Leagues, maybe 1 year another team deserves it. It was only a single line in a Match of the Day interview that also included an assertion that it's still November and we'll recover our best. But it's difficult to think of a time when Pep Guardiola has looked and sounded so defeatist about his Manchester City project. Guardiola shrugged his shoulders, linked in, gave himself thinking time as he stumbled over the words, and seemed genuinely resigned to the possibility that, hey, maybe this just isn't our year. Winning the Premier League requires relentless optimism, as Guardiola knows better than anyone. Therefore, to provide the media with a pull quote like that is telling. His shrug, his almost apathetic response to his side's 4th successive defeat in all competitions, feels significant. It certainly aligns with what many fans and pundits are seeing on the pitch. We can go back even further than the last 4 games and include the narrow victories over Southampton, Wolves, and Fulham in this series of flat performances from Man City. Performances of lethargy and unexpected drift. For Pep Guardiola, the recent struggles have a straightforward explanation. Rodri's injury has been a significant factor, but Guardiola also pointed to the absences of key players like Jack Grealish, John Stones, Oscar Bob, and Ruben Diaz. When we get the players back, I don't have any doubts that we will be back, he told reporters. Yet this only scratches the surface. While 5 absentees could affect any team, it doesn't quite constitute an injury crisis. Instead, City seems weighed down by a general sense of fatigue rather than an issue with individual quality. Brighton found it surprisingly easy to claw back into the game last Saturday. The introduction of Carlos Baleba forced City into an unusually deep block, something rarely seen from a Guardiola-led side. Before both Brighton goals, City's defense appeared cautious and vulnerable, waiting to be breached, a worrying sign in an already shaky stretch of games. This performance might be the clearest signal yet that City's challenges will continue into the 2024-25 season. Beyond the tactical missteps, Guardiola's situation adds to the uncertainty. His contract status and the looming potential of a points deduction due to alleged profit and sustainability rules violations are casting shadows over the club's future. While City denies any wrongdoing, a possible penalty would come at a time when Guardiola's squad appears increasingly imbalanced and aging. Key players like Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, Kyle Walker, Mateo Kovacic, John Stones, and Ederson are all well into their 30s. Guardiola's finely tuned, tactically advanced squad now shows signs of age and thin depth in critical positions. The lack of fullbacks and over-reliance on a traditional striker seem out of sync with his once revolutionary philosophy. There's a growing sense that when Guardiola does leave, City may face a decline, similar to Manchester United's post-Ferguson era. Not as drastic, perhaps, but like Ferguson, Guardiola has molded a team that now leans more on experience and psychology than tactical novelty. The energy for a major rebuild doesn't seem to be there, and for the first time, Guardiola's departure feels imminent. But all of these don't matter to the fans as much as the performances the team puts out every week, and their loss at Brighton was just uncalled for and unacceptable for a Guardiola side. With just 12 minutes left, Guardiola's troubled side were clinging on to the lead, given to them by Erling Haaland in the first half. But they collapsed in the closing stages as João Pedro equalized before Matt O'Reilly bagged Brighton's winner 7 minutes from full time. After exiting the League Cup to Tottenham and suffering a first league loss since December at Bournemouth, City were thrashed 4-1 by Sporting Lisbon in the Champions League in midweek. The slump continued as they failed to kill off Brighton before the second-half implosion that threatened to derail their bid for a fifth successive Premier League title. City had paid for failing to turn their dominance into more than a one-goal lead against Sporting, and profligacy was a problem again on the south coast of England. Savinho should have put City ahead when Mateo Kovacic's pass sent him surging into the Albion area, but the Brazilian's weak finish allowed Bart Verbruggen to save. Kovacic was the catalyst when City took the lead in the 23rd minute, with a goal equal parts inspiration and perspiration. The Croatian midfielder's inch-perfect pass split the Brighton defense, but Haaland still had work to do, as his initial shot was blocked by Verbruggen, leaving the Norwegian in a race with John-Paul van Hecke to poke the ball in before it could be cleared. Haaland's 15th goal in all competitions this season was only the second time he had netted in his last 6 league appearances. Haaland's 75th league goal since joining City in 2022 was almost followed by the 76th moments later. His low drive repelled by Verbruggen at the near post. Kovacic's long-range volley forced another good stop from the increasingly overworked Verbruggen, but City fatally dropped their intensity just before halftime, allowing Fabian Hurtzeller's side to gain a foothold. Jack Hinchelwood wasted a golden opportunity to haul Brighton level early in the second half, as his close-range header from Pervis Estupiñán's cross was palmed away by Ederson. Ederson raced off his line to save at Kaoru Mitoma's feet before Pedro scuffed wide with the goal at his mercy. Pedro made amends for that miss as the Brazilian punished woeful City defending to equalize with 12 minutes left. Mitoma was given too much space for a pass into Welbeck in the 6-yard box. Rico Lewis's block tackle stopped Welbeck's shooting, but Josko Gvardiol and Mateus Nunes didn't clear the danger, allowing Pedro to pounce with a close-range strike. Guardiola slumped into a seat, but there was worse to come for the City boss in the 83rd minute. Pedro slipped his pass through City's leaky defense, and O'Reilly timed his run perfectly to clip a composed finish past Ederson from 10 yards to leave the champions in turmoil. But the home fans didn't care. They were mad with joy, singing, "You're getting sacked in the morning." If you want to stay constantly up to date on anything football related, please hit the subscribe and like buttons. It's a curious twist that Guardiola is more likely to extend his contract than face dismissal in the coming weeks, a prospect most City fans would welcome. Yet the man who has turned Manchester City into a powerhouse is now facing one of the toughest periods in his 9-year tenure. "I will not step back at all, less than ever," Guardiola declared after City's defeat at the Amex Stadium, hinting that he might soon commit to another year. This sentiment has been echoed within the club recently. After the loss to Sporting Lisbon, he was asked about potentially managing Brazil, and he responded similarly. "More than ever, I want to lift the team and return them to their top level." The international break offers Guardiola a rare chance to ponder his future and analyze the reasons behind City's recent 4 losses in 11 days. While he was pleased with the team's performance in 3 of these matches, the exception being the 2-1 loss at Bournemouth, he knows good performances alone aren't enough. The root cause is clear: injuries. Though often overlooked when big-budget teams falter, City's lineup and bench at Brighton highlighted how stretched Guardiola's squad options currently are. City have had slow starts before, but bounced back. This time, though, Guardiola sees a difference. "In terms of results, it can be similar, but the point is we don't have the players," he explained. all 4 central defenders are injured. Rodri, our best player, isn't available. Kevin De Bruyne isn't at his best. Jeremy Doku and Jack Grealish are also sidelined. It's possible to get through one game like this, but it's tough to maintain consistency. He shared that Nathan Ake and Manuel Akanji, although on the bench, were unable to play. Ake due to a hamstring issue, and Akanji reportedly too restricted in training to participate. It may sound like complaining, but it's not. We played well, but if you ask how this compares to previous seasons, in those seasons, we had the squad. The injury list raises concerns about how quickly returning players will regain form. Even Ilkay Gundogan, who hasn't been injured, hasn't yet returned to his previous form since leaving City. Phil Foden, though improving, still needs to reach his level from last season to make a greater impact. Bernardo Silva summarized the situation midweek. Even when we play well, we don't score our chances, and we concede too easily. This pattern repeated against Brighton, where City could have led by a couple goals at halftime, but couldn't keep up after the break. We have one more game before the international break, which will definitely be good for us, Bernardo commented before the Brighton match. Afterward, Guardiola agreed that time apart might help, and he hopes the injuries clear up soon. When the players come back and we add some individual quality, we'll be back, he said. Yet for Guardiola, being there means full commitment. His players may be giving their all on the pitch, but injuries are undermining their ability to stay fully competitive. I want the entire squad to fight, he explained. If another team wins, fine, but let's not give it away because we're not there. Right now, it feels like we're not there. We can't keep this up every 3 days under these circumstances. Asked if his era at City might be coming to an end, Guardiola responded with a concern about City potentially facing the same post-title struggles that previous Premier League winners have endured. Liverpool had it with Klopp after winning the Champions League and Premier League when Van Dijk was injured long-term, and they ended up in the Europa League, he noted. We need our players to compete, but we don't have them. So, is this just a rough patch, or will returning players boost performance enough to ease these concerns? There's been some unease in the squad, as Guardiola hinted himself that he'd like to see more effort from some absent players to make themselves available, while Grealish's England call-up adds another layer of frustration. The struggles have likely been discouraging for the players, making this international break a welcome respite. However, City won't have an easy restart, facing Tottenham at home, then Liverpool away, with a key Champions League game against Feyenoord in between. If the same issues persist, they may struggle to secure points in these league games. However, once players are back, except for Rodri, who's out for the season, the current concerns may seem exaggerated. The question remains as to how quickly the squad can regain full fitness. With a run of fixtures against Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Juventus, Manchester United, and Aston Villa leading up to Christmas, there will be little room for error. Hopefully, they won't get relegated. If you enjoyed this video, do share it with a friend, and then check out our next video about Bayern Munich's treble-winning season.